Walaikum Assalam wa rahmatullah.
I just wanted to ask, God wants us to...
You have borrowed this cap from someone, not on interest, I hope.
I hope not.
Not on terms of interest, eh?
I hope not.
Okay.
Allah wants us to love Him, and Allah wants us to fear Him as well.
What?
Allah wants us to love Him.
Allah wants us to love Him.
You said wants? I couldn't follow the word.
Wants.
You understand? Wants, yes.
Wants.
Allah wants you to love Him.
Yes.
Is that what you say?
Yes.
Okay.
And He also requires us to fear Him. Is it possible just to love Him and not to fear Him?
Not to?
Not to fear.
Not to fear. Fear of God.
The word is fear.
Fear. Oh, I'm sorry.
Is it?
You see, your pronunciation of English must be very correct, but mine is not that correct. I couldn't follow you. Fear, you mean?
Yes.
That's right. You see, love and fear in relation to God have a very special connotation. Fear and love which go together, those are the fears and loves which are mentioned. Those who can't go together, they are not obviously mentioned. You fear a ghastly animal. You can't love it. Right? You can love your mother and also fear her. Right?
Yes.
So that is it. Love and fear in relation to the beloved one generally acquire a very special connotation, the fear of losing one's favor. Not to do something whereby you can fall foul of the person you love. That fear is taqwa in relation to Allah. Not like the fear of a beast. Because that fear pushes you apart, sends you away. But God's fear brings you closer to God. Because repeatedly the Holy Quran says, if you fear Allah, He will love you, you will be closer to Him, you will be in His custody. So it couldn't be that fear which you normally related to fear, which can be expressed as terror.
Yeah.
There is no terror of God.
I was actually thinking about the fear of His punishment rather than the fear of...
Fear of punishment is concentrated fear in the form of His displeasure. So that displeasure can take any form. Basically, if it is related to love, the prime fear should be that of displeasure. Then the displeasure in itself becomes a punishment. But if you are too crude and roughly strung, then you can't understand displeasure to be a punishment. Then a stick is also used. You see, this happens in everyday life. In the case of some mother's relation with their children, the children are very sensitively strung. Just an act of ignoring at the hand of their parents becomes a punishment for such children. There, the rod is always spared, there is no need for any rod. But if you are turning away, your displeasure doesn't produce any effect on the children, then that displeasure also is translated into the form of some strike, some spanking and things and so on. So it is the displeasure which expresses itself in different forms in relation to the person to whom the displeasure is shown. Right?
So we should be afraid of God's displeasure at us rather than being afraid of His punishment.
Displeasure would take the form of punishment according to your own state of development. Can take the form of, let's say, corporal punishment as well. Like a mother's displeasure always does. That is why I started with the example of a mother. Right?
Yes.
But the best thing is to connect love with this fear. That is how you started. Why do you keep forgetting the part of the love? when you speak of love and fear together, then the fear of the lover is always concentrated on the danger of earning displeasure. You see, a lover constantly lives under the fear that my beloved may lose her care for me, her regard for me. I may fall foul of her. And that is the main fear. It is not the fear of any other punishment than just losing the favor. Right? Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum rahmatullah.
I was pondering a little while on the brother's question about Mary and her dual sexuality.
Right.
And I was thinking that I don't recall anywhere in the Holy Quran it mentioning homosexuality.
No.
I am aware that...
No, it mentions homosexuality with very strong censure.
Yes?
It does. You said homosexuality?
Yes. My question is, what is the Islamic view of homosexuality?
The Holy Quran is very specific on this. The Holy Quran tells you what happened to those people of the law, people of Lot. Mm-hmm. And the Holy Quran censures this in the strongest terms. It's an uncouth, filthy, unnatural habit in which they were involved, and that is why they were wiped out of the face of earth. That was the only reason why.
Right. I mean, that's the definitive answer, that's probably...
Because, you see, that in that incident, there is a very profound message for us. Sex acquires a pleasure not just for the sake of sex itself. Sex is an instrument for the preservation of species. And that instrument can only work for this purpose if it is a sex between opposites, not with the same kind. So the very purpose of the creation of sex, which developed over billions of years of the evolution of life, was to add pleasure to this act so that you may not disregard your responsibility to send your progeny to the future. If you had no pleasure in it, the life would become extinct much, much earlier than we can conceive. So that is the purpose. It is a purpose-built thing. So when you do something to it where the purpose is not served, then the punishment to that is that, all right, you be extinct. I'll wipe you out. Because you are misusing this provision, favor of Allah, and you are denying the purpose of this pleasure. So, all right, you face the natural consequences. I would like you to be extinct, wiped out. And that is what was done to the people of Lot. In what stronger terms would you require that the Holy Quran should mention this?
That will do fine. The modern day theory, of course, is that it's perhaps a psychological defect or an illness, or what? It's okay saying.
You see, it can be. I tell you, all sins can also result from an illness of the mind, which in itself is a product of sin to begin with. It is wrong to say that genetically these boys or girls are created in a way that they have no other choice but to do this. This is wrong. It's against the clear-cut principles laid down in the Holy Quran. What happens is, there are influences right from the childhood on them, and you cannot deny the role of influences. That is why the Holy Quran says, choose the pious company, be careful about how you bring your children up, and so on and so forth. So right from the beginning, they might have seen things in their families, in their homes, which gradually created a sort of aversion to the opposite sex, which helped develop the taste only for a single sex. Now, there would be certain factors which were born out of sin.